I feel like Ubisoft is currently in a holding pattern. If they don't actually change what they do now, then they're as good as gone. And the problem is that, like, I don't think that it's going to be likely they're going to be changing what they're doing anytime soon. Because Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot says the plan is to focus on open world and live service games year after year. And you might be thinking to yourself, wait, hold on, isn't that what Ubisoft has kind of been doing for the past 10 years anyways? And is kind of part of the reason as to why they are now facing issues currently where the value of their company has dropped quite substantially, which has ended up with them losing money year after year and the quality of their games dropping quite significantly. Yeah, I would say so. I would certainly say so, because all things considered, the only even decently good franchise they have is Assassin's Creed, and let's put it this way, Assassin's Creed Shadows is not providing any amount of confidence in people, and other companies are now releasing games that take place within that period of Japan's history, the feudal Japan era, and are doing it better than Shadows, ultimately, it seems like. And what doesn't make things any better is the fact that every time Ubisoft has tried to make a live service game, it's always failed. Whether we look at their live service shooter lineup, we're looking at stuff like what's it called? Hyperscape, which was shut down, and now X Defiant, which is also looking to be shut down. And you might look at their history and be like, wait, hold on, what about Siege? As you probably noticed, Siege is actually really just an exception, not the rule. So you look at that and you're like, okay, of the 3 live services that I could name off the top of my head, 2 of them failed, 1 of them is still moving, but not really going anywhere or introducing new players to the game, which is really unfortunate to see. They're doing good, but they're not doing great with Siege all in all. And what really doesn't help matters is that they've also tried their hand at NFT games, which has also been a real fun thing to look at, especially when the NFT games are absolutely rubbish, and they tried to pull quartz down people's throats during the release of Ghost Recon Breakpoint, if I remember correctly. But that was really more of like a breaking point than anything else. But I feel like, everything considered, like, hey, okay, so they're focusing on open world and live service games. What does this mean for us as players? Well, let's put it this way. Open world games, we already know what that means. We already know what Ubisoft has kind of been doing in that space. We're looking at stuff like Far Cry. We're looking at stuff like Assassin's Creed. And I think this article goes into a little bit more detail about stuff that I think is actually kind of interesting, specifically regarding the fact that they still want to do more stuff in the live service space, which obviously hasn't been doing particularly well. But one thing I'm surprised by is that the Crew Motorfest technically counts as a live service game for these guys. And I'm wondering in my mind if it's possible that the reason as to why they're looking at the Crew Motorfest as a live service is because it's largely online and, you know, just gets updated every now and again. Because the term live service has really been thrown around a lot, and a lot of people don't really understand what the term means, and it's probably because the term actually doesn't have any meaning and was just largely used as this sort of PR buzzword for the longest time. But the reason specifically why I'm wanting to make this video is to bash on Ubisoft, specifically for the fact to what they did with Ubisoft Montpellier. So I have this Game Rant article that was published on the 22nd of October 2024, where it says Prince of Persia The Lost Crown team reportedly disbanded by Ubisoft. Yes, Ubisoft disbanded the team surrounding Prince of Persia The Lost Crown. These guys are known as Ubisoft Montpellier, and what I really despise about Ubisoft is that the direction that they've taken with live services has made Ubisoft lose so much money that when they finally release a critically acclaimed game after more than, I want to say, 9 years, when we finally get a critically acclaimed game, even though it doesn't sell the best, they were not able to keep the studio together and ultimately ended up falling apart. And okay, why talk about Ubisoft Montpellier? Because again, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown was a really good game. And this is where my pain sticks out. Specifically, they didn't just make Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, they also made Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends. Though to be completely honest, I would prefer Origins over Legends, but hey, you know, that's just the critical standpoint on both of these games. Yeah, these games were actually made by Ubisoft Montpellier, and so it actually kind of makes me wonder, as I sit down and look at this, is it possible that we may never ever get another Rayman game ever again after the fact that Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown just didn't sell as well as it could have? Because critically speaking, Rayman Origins and Legends did do better regarding, Metascore than Prince of Persia: Lost Crown. Actually, what is Prince of Persia: Lost Crown's Prince of Persia: Lost Crown Metacritic? I'm sure they did well, but nowhere near well enough to be close to. Okay, no, 86. Okay, that's actually pretty good. It's actually, ooh, okay, it's just under Rayman Origins. That's interesting, because obviously, you know, I think that Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is technically a better game than Rayman Origins, but I'm comparing two games from completely different franchises, and I feel like if, you know, Montpellier were given the chance to make another Rayman, I feel like we would be in a very, very nice place where, you know, Ubisoft would actually consider making more Rayman games and not make stuff like Raving Rabbits for the longest time on mobile games, like mobile games based on Raving Rabbits, and then send that off to like Asian markets, for example. It's just not something that I'm kind of behind by any sense of the word. And so this is kind of where my pain comes in, is that currently Ubisoft is looking at everything and being like, we're looking at mainly open world adventures like Assassin's Creed games and live service games like Rainbow Six Siege or The Crew Motorfest for the foreseeable future. So unless you fall in either of these categories, it is highly unlikely that you are going to get a game released within that particular franchise. And I sat down for a second, looked at the ceiling for a bit, and wondered to myself, wait, what about Splinter Cell? And there was apparently some reports regarding that Splinter Cell, you know, the original Splinter Cell was getting re-released or remade to some extent. But the thing is that we've heard very little to nothing at all about it. And so now we found ourselves in that sense of a holding pattern where Ubisoft have these great franchises. They're holding it above our heads. But the thing is that, or rather the really unfortunate thing is that, if something bad were to happen to Ubisoft and they were to shut down, who is going to take that IP? Who are the people that are going to develop those games? Because we know that Ubisoft Montpellier, while they might not be the same guys who made the Rayman games before, they are still an incredibly talented team that made a really good game in the form of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. They have skills that they could really implement very well into a 2D side-scrolling Rayman game. It doesn't have to be like Rayman 3 Hoodlum Havoc, which is technically a 3D Rayman game from the PS2 era. But at least like Origins and Legends were incredibly colorful games that played really well, that felt good, that gave you a bunch of joy, but also was incredibly challenging when you really wanted it to be, had really good secrets, had a lot of collectibles, and hell, functionally were extremely good titles. So looking at all of this, I'm just kind of flabbergasted that somehow Ubisoft, to whatever extent, can somehow be in a holding pattern where they're trying to still do the same thing they've been doing for the past 10 years that has led them down to a disastrous situation that they are currently facing at this very moment, which partly involves them potentially losing power with the Guillemot family, specifically regarding Ubisoft, and instead forking over money to be purchased from by Tencent, a giant Chinese conglomerate. So with all that being said, I'm just kind of sitting here thinking to myself, what on earth is going on there? How can this, end in a way where, the gamers are going to benefit the most out of what is going on with this whole situation? It really sucks. But I'm just going to read the remainder of this article just to kind of give an idea, pretty much just across where they're at the moment. So, going on. So this is pretty much from a earnings call, I want to say, from one of their stakeholders that actually asked a question during that report. So going on to discuss games already confirmed, he added, as you know, we are preparing a big launch for Assassin's Creed Shadows in the very short term. Next year we'll have big plans that will benefit Rainbow Six across all platforms. That's focusing well, and that's a key milestone in the growth plan for the company. We've received that Anno 117 Pax Romana will also come next year, as well as Division Resurgence on mobile. Actually, worth pointing out, Anno 117 Pax Romana and Division Resurgence was actually announced ages ago. It feels like it's been a really long time since they were announced, and so now we're finally getting those games so much later. But with that being said, we haven't provided more color for FY 2026, but we'll have more to share by the time of May. And as I've just said, we have a strong platform for the future years across these two verticals. And if I were to think of what that strong platform was, I'm thinking that it's Assassin's Creed Infinity, though I can't really confirm whether or not that's actually the case. During the presentation, Gilmore also claimed that Assassin's Creed Shadows pre-orders were in line with those of Odyssey, which went on to be the second most successful entry in terms of unit sales. So yeah, that's kind of where we are here. Let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 500 subs by the end of the year. And with all that being said, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.